How you do that there? How you do that there? And I ain't mad about it. I am your man's Nic Rattlehead. Woo. And behind this camera, watching over your boy, somewhere out in California, is my brother, my pal, my compadre, my amigo. My man's with the master plan, 100 grand, only you, me, and God knows how much I love this guy, man. Tell him one more time what's your name. Matt the Graff. Thinking about you, buddy. And we are Aftershock Reviews, here to give you the best extreme music reviews. And we return with a fiery vengeance with this nasty album called Product of My Environment by Maryland's Jarhead Fertilizer. So before we continue, let me at least nerd out to the name of this band. Jarhead Fertilizer. Is that not fun to say? Jarhead Fertilizer. Kudos to them for coming up with a name that is that unique and that fun to say. Jarhead Fertilizer. That's hard. That's hard. I love that. Now, what is Jarhead Fertilizer, right? They are a power violence band. Now, for those of you who are probably just new to the channel or new to metal and trying to figure out what in the blue hell is power violence is a fusion of genres like hardcore punk, traditional punk, grindcore, and in some instances, metalcore, and I've even heard some thrash elements when it comes to power violence, right? But all of these different things create the bedrock that is power violence, right? And in their 2015 EP, Opiate Conquest, it really sticks to those guns. It really does. It has the wailing, shrieking, searing vocal, right? Accompanied by, and almost, well, I would say accented by, a death metal vocal, and the instrumentation of that album, the instrumentation of that EP is very fast. It is very visceral. It is very nasty and it's aimed at your throat. And it is wonderful, magnificent, almost a little thrashy in the guitar tone as well, but it still feels really thick and almost down-tuned, right? Now, how does that contrast to Product of My Environment, right? Product of My Environment is even more gross. It feels like we are dropped in this almost dystopian, barren, urban sprawled landscape, right? And we're trying to wade our way through the grossness, right? If Graveson's methods of human disposal, which I also highly suggest that you listen to because it's fantastic, right? If we're surface level with that, we've gone to the underbelly when it comes to this, right? Like, it feels like we found a manhole, went into the sewer, and then now this is where Jarhead Fertilizer lives. It's like if you watch Futurama, right? The mutants live in old New York. We are in old New York here, right? This is, it's gross, man. Like sewage and, uprooted tarmac, and it smells like piss and crap and spitting asses everywhere. It's not somewhere you want to be, except for sickos like me. Because for me, I think the landscape that they paint for us here it's so stark and black and white that it's awesome, right? And the way that they go about painting it through the down-tuned guitar, it's even more down-tuned than it is on Opiate Conquest in 2015. It's even more than that. And then on top of that, big stinky bass. Big stinky bass. Oh, and it's somehow fused with a nasty, almost elemental, primal percussion tone. It feels like it's continuously punching you in the stomach. As you're throwing up your lunch, you're throwing up yesterday's dinner, you're throwing up yesterday's breakfast. It doesn't give a rip, and it keeps punching you in the stomach until you fall over. It's so good. But don't just take my word for it. Let's get into the track listing. And we start out with intro. Now, intro is a free-form, almost jazz-like intro. And what this does is it almost paints the picture of the chaos and the mayhem and the bleakness that is about to hit us at full speed, right? And I absolutely love this. And usually I'm a little bit apprehensive when it comes to intro tracks. Usually I don't too much care unless it's done tastefully, like a Thundering Hooves, right? I don't too much care for intro tracks that have like, the wind in the background or the ambient noise or some, vocal sample that means absolutely nothing to the track or the album, right? Which we'll also get into that in a second. This is done tastefully. This is done wonderfully. And this paints the picture of what we're about to get in the title track, Product of My Environment. Because that track is it punched me in my teeth. And I'm so glad I still got them. Because at the end of the day, it starts out with these great hits from the percussion. And it is accompanied, it is holding hands with our down-tuned guitar and our buzzsaw, blood-caked, insanely gross bass guitar. And I'm trying to replicate it in my excitement, but I can't do it. I'm gonna stop so I don't end up, sullying this track, right? But it smacks you in your gut. In the beginning, first real riff you hear is Down To, which is weird because, like I said, it's a power violence album, right? I'm expecting the speed of tracks like Snitch and the speed of tracks like God's Soap Malignancy to hit me in the face, and it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. And it just starts lumbering and dragging its knuckles through the uprooted tarmac as it crawls out of the sewage lake off to the far right in our urban sprawl, in our New York, our Futurama New York. That's what it's doing, right? It's so good. And midway through this track, we start to get glimpses here because we're going to get full-fledged power violence in a second, but we get glimpses of the speed and the ferocity that Jarhead Fertilizer has shown us, has displayed to us in previous efforts. But Product of My Environment is going to be one of the few tracks that actually has memorable riffs, right? Because there's not really much in the way of that. I don't think they're really necessarily caring about if it's catchy or not. And that's a very dope approach, because it makes the experience itself catchy and memorable and makes me want to rewind it. Also, going back to the runtime, because like I said before, power violence is very short, it's very terse, right? The runtime for this album is only 21 minutes. That's it. And in 21 minutes, they make such an impression that it makes it, you have to hit repeat. You have to collect yourself and be like, what just happened to me, right? And then you repeat it again and you're like, oh, that's what just happened. And it's magnificent. I absolutely love it. Trials and Tribulations follows up Product of My Environment. And the thing about it is, it almost feels like Product of My Environment and Trials and Tribulations are the same song. It feels like it's a continuation of the same idea, right? And I absolutely love that because yet again, in grindcore, in punk sometimes, it's hard to decipher where one track ended and where one track began. It's an endless torture chamber of a lot of disorienting sounds and percussion and vocals. And it's a situation where yet again, you almost, if you're listening to this for the first time, you'll be fumbling around a little bit to try and find your bearings. And this album, this band never lets you do that. Ever. Never let you do it. And I love it for it because it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you stumbling. It keeps you engaged in what's going on around you, right? Because you're trying to just figure out what happened. And I love that about Trials and Tribulations. But Silence the Narc, I told you we were going to get to our power violence, right? I said that, right? I said we were going to get to our meat and potatoes power violence. And that's what Silence the Narc is. From our opening vocal sample, right? To the speed. Oh, and it's only like 1 minute and 5 seconds, which is right on the nose on what the max length of a power violence or punk or grind track should be, right? And within that 1 minute and 5 seconds, they incorporate so much, and they do it so quickly, and they do it so violently, and they do it so wonderfully. Now, I think this is one of those standout tracks that people are really going to go to when they go back and listen to it, right? Because at the same time, Silence the Narc is just such a blitzkrieg of wonderful power violence ideas, but it is not as wonderful as it is, as magnificent as it is, embedded in your mind is where they say, you know what? Now we introed you into all this mayhem, right? Now I'm taking off the gloves, so to speak, like I'm Brock Lesnar. I'm taking off my bracelets like I'm Wonder Woman. Now you're about to get the full brunt of everything I got. Because at the end of the day, the percussion, let's talk about the percussion too. Because the percussion, the way that the producer attacks this, right? Yes, it feels sludgy. Yes, it feels almost, since it feels like it's maneuvering through tar. It feels like it's maneuvering through sewage, but somehow manages to remain clear. The ride cymbal, Lord him, I love that ride. Damn it. It rings and resonates so well as the kick drum. It comes through, but it doesn't feel like it's just relying on triggers, right? And you don't hear that ticka 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 type of thing. You don't. It feels like somebody found a piece of cardboard down there, put it right where the kick drum head should be, and just said, and it's, it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. And like I said before, everything is down tuned, but everything is so clear. And I love that about that. That takes a specific skill. That takes a level of talent that I believe should be more utilized throughout the rest of a lot of the releases this year, next year, and for years to come. Because this is great. It's so good. You gotta trust me. You gotta trust me here. But going back to the track of Embedding in Your Mind, right? It starts out full speed, like a grind track, like a pump track, but it's the last riff that comes around like maybe a little bit after the half-minute mark, well, the half track mark, right? That leads us from half of the track to the end of the track. That is great. And it is ascending, and it's only interrupted in its ascension. That's a tongue twister. It's only interrupted in its ascension by the squeaking, screaming, shrieking guitar tone. And it's like, I want to sing it so badly, I do, but I'm not going to, because I'll sully it. But you have to. It's thick and it's chunky and it keeps rising, only to be cut by a searing, interruptive guitar tone. It's great. It's absolutely wonderful. And at the end of the day, also, the drummer, the percussionist, right, is doing a great job of holding down that pocket, but remaining chaotic. It's absolutely wonderful. It's absolutely great. And not only is Embedded in My Mind that way, but Baptized by Fire is the exact same way. It's following the exact same formula. But the percussion and then the notes that are still smashing together, that are still swirling around in our piss pot over here together, it's still somehow, while it's utilizing the same ideology, it comes off different. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And Into Your Sacred World. Now, I really wanted to touch on this track. Reason being is because it starts out with this vocal sample of a man talking about what war is and what they're fighting for, right? As a matter of fact, support your bands. I'm going to read the lyrics to you because the vocal sample in the beginning, and once you listen to the track, which I really hope you do, that vocal sample in the beginning is going to make sense because he's talking about fighting wars. Even at some point, even if you don't know what you're fighting for, you gotta fight. You gotta fight for something, right? And when we're talking about an Into Your Sacred World, here's what the lyrics are. And I'm gonna read them out to you. And into your sacred world, cast down by your kingdom of S. You know, gotta be YouTube friendly here. So S, I'm sure everybody knows what that means. Hail to your Mary, dismay to your God. Prophet to your shrine, make your sins divine. No crown of thorns, no holes in your hands, glorification of a holy man, in quotes. Your cross snaps, exposing God's lies, breaking your faith until you die. That's strong. And the reason I say that is because I think what they're trying to convey with the vocal sample in the front and the lyrical content of the track itself is it's almost like people fight for, you know, we'll say in this instance here, Christianity, because I think that's what they're really alluding to. And you don't know why. It's like brainless people fight for nothing, right? except for the fact that you feel like your God told you to do so. You know what I mean? And now the fact that you're being that ignorant and not thinking for yourself and not being able to decipher what you're doing, we're going to break all of that down. This is stupid. You don't need to be doing this. And we're going to show you the hypocrisy and how flawed your faith system is. It's a scathing critique. And it's a scathing critique of people who follow Christ, who aren't able to think for yourselves. Here, it's such a strong sentiment, and it's such a strong sentiment that they illustrate so graphically that I think is very well executed here. This is a great track due to its ideology alone, and whether you're a Christian or whether you're not, I think it's also a really good talking point as well. This is what I love about stuff like this. Let's talk about it. Let's have that conversation. Let's open up this can of worms and let's get down to what the core root is. It's good. It's absolutely good. Aside from that, we have, to me, my favorite track, and it is Drowned in Your Blood. And remember what I said before, big, stinky bass. Big, stinky bass. Oh my gosh. And the whole thing is just a riff. And I'm sorry, I have to sing this one. It's like, sorry, baby. And this is the thing I love about this album, right? While Opiate Conquest seemed like a way more meat and potatoes power violence album, this has a lot of elements of death metal in it. A lot of them. Oh my gosh. And they take that and incorporate it so well to make this Frankenstein monster that's groovy, that's fun, that's engaging and immersive. It's good. And that riff is the backbone to that track. It's only interrupted for a split second by some grinding blast beats and shrieking guitar tones, but they don't forsake it for long, because that only lasts for maybe like a couple of seconds, because after that, it goes right back into our crazy caveman Godzilla versus Kong inspired riff. Holy cow. Listen to me. This thing is phenomenal. The only critique that I would have, right, is Agony Churning. Now, Agony Churning is an interlude into the closer of the album, Life is a Prison, right? And what it is, it's this very slow, very percussive bass solo that is also backed by the percussionist, who's on like almost like a straight 4/4. He's not doing anything crazy or anything else like that. And the bass just chugs along slowly, buzzing away slowly. But Nick, you seem to really like it. I do like it. But my critique is this, though. I would much rather go from Drowning Your Blood straight into Life is a Prison than have Agony Churning. Because for me, it's a situation where if you had Life is a Prison, right after Drowning Your Blood, and then had Agony Churning as like the closer that goes back into the intro, that would have been, at least to me, this is my personal opinion, of course, that would have been way more engaging. That would have been really cool, right? Because then you would have gotten all of the mayhem out of the way, right? And then be like, okay, cool. And here's the solo that leads back into our freeform intro. But yet and still, I'm not saying that it's bad. I absolutely love it. It's just the fact that I think the track placement, if you would have just flip-flopped those two, it would have been chef kiss, A plus stuff. I love this album. I love this album. I highly suggest that if you're into death metal, that if you're into punk, that if you're into hardcore, that if you're into power violence, anything else like that, this should not be an album that you go 2021 without listening to, because shame on you if you do. The name of this album is called Product of My Environment. A little excited here. Need to bring it from a 10 down to maybe a 5, right? The name of this album again is called Product of My Environment by Jarhead Fertilizer, out now on Closed Casket Activities. I will make sure to leave a link in the description below so you can pick up the vinyl. I think they still have like the marble gray. I think mine is the marble gray. You can pick up a shirt as well. They have a long sleeve, they have a hoodie, and they have a t-shirt. Support your bands, man. Support your bands, especially during this time. We're still not able to go see shows just yet, but we're getting there. So, support your bands when you can and take the vaccine. Please do. Please do so. Because I want to go see shows. I want to see this band live. Until next time, guys, I am your man's Nic Rattlehead, and behind this camera, somewhere out in California, is my man's with the master plan, 100 grand. Tell him one more time, what's your name? Graff. Ooh. Wash your hands, support your bands. Peace. How you do that, girl?